Some people may call me a prophet and that I know how to predict the future. And others would probably say that probably everyone predicted this because it was very obvious. But regardless, from my last video, I got it right and what I said came true. Now, whenever the Russia-Ukraine situation started to happen, just a little over a month ago at this point, I predicted that a bunch of countries in the general area were actually going to start increasing their military spend as their citizens started to fear for their own lives. Then, just right after the situation actually happened, Germany came out saying that they were going to increase their military spending by over $110 billion, from which we actually deciphered that if taking what the, United States is actually budgeting for intelligence, that Germany could actually be allocating around 9% of that towards their intelligence programs. Now, this goes to benefit Palantir because that's exactly the roadhouse that they like to work in. Now, I don't know if they're going to actually win any contracts on this. We are just talking about a total addressable market for everything that's going to come out of these new countries that are going to be increasing their military spend, and it's going to be happening very rapidly. But who better to talk about first than the big dog themselves, United States of America, with the largest military spend in the entire world, and no one's close. Today, actually, Joe Biden said that he is going to be trying to pass a $5.8 trillion bill, announcing that it's going to be one of the largest investments in our national security in history. That's actually going to break down into $813 billion for national security spending and a ridiculous $770 billion for the US military, which is actually a $69 billion increase over what the Defense Department received for 2022. Other types of things that are in that bill that Palantir could also be a part of are things like emerging technologies, research and innovation, counter cyber threats, or even climate research and development. But out of that $813 billion, assuming that we're going to still get that around 9% towards intelligence agencies, that could leave a $73 billion budget that Palantir could be fighting towards for a bunch of their different programs. And then additionally, on the US military side of the $770 billion, that also leaves a $69 billion opportunity for the intelligence agencies, for which even if we between, the 73 billion, the 69 billion, even if we are to get $1 billion out of that, that would still be the biggest contract that Palantir has ever closed. And considering that the US military is by far our biggest client, and they always continue to increase the amount of spending that they have with Palantir, it is a great opportunity for us going forward. Now, even Britain is looking to get into it and actually increase their military spending as well, for which they also spend around 2% of their GDP, just like Germany will. That is, by the way, NATO members' recommended amount of spending for their military spend is 2% of their GDP. Now, not every member follows this, especially, a lot of the countries that have had longer amounts of peacetime, but now people are looking to increase this spending. But now the UK really wants to ramp up their spending with a bunch of different people either talking about something along the lines of 2.25% all the way to 4%, okay? Which could double their military spending right now, and there's a lot of votes for this currently. Just to show you what kind of outcome that could have on Palantir and other intelligence communities, right now they have a GDP of around $2.9 trillion. 2% of that makes around $59 billion, okay? And then, to the intelligence communities, that's around $5.3 billion. Now, if they were to actually double that all the way to 4%, that could actually be as much as $10.6 billion towards the intelligence communities, for which Palantir could be a huge part of. Then even Sweden came into play. Now, Sweden's a little bit different, okay? Because for the longest time, they've seen huge periods of peacetime. Okay, so actually they were spending only around 1% on their military budget, around actually 1.2% to be exact. But now they said they want to aggressively step this up and actually hit the 2% mark, which could take their military spending budget from $6.8 billion all the way up to $11.3 billion for their defense spending. That would be a new yearly spend of $4.5 billion, which the new total amount for Palantir could be a total of $405 million coming to the intelligence communities. Then even in my own country, Canada, we actually saw that we are going to be wanting to step up our military spending from going from currently at 1.4% all the way up to that NATO recommended 2%. Incorporating all of our GDP and taking in those percentages, that could take us from $28.2 billion all the way up to $40.3 billion in our amount of military spending. That's a new $12.1 billion in spending, which around 9% of that is around $1 billion that's going to go towards intelligence. And then lastly, just to throw it in, Denmark also said that they are going to be upping it from around 1.4% of their GDP to 2%, but they said that they're actually going to be achieving this by 2030. So it's not an immediate boost, but still still, long term, might as well say it because it's not going to hurt us. Now, I wanted to bring this up because this is really, really good news, okay? But this is not news that's like, oh, such a world event that's actually going to 10x Palantir. I mean, it could potentially if we actually end up securing all the contracts for every single one of these countries, but we're not going to be able to move that fast. What I do think it's going to do is put a positive light on the short-term growth of our company and actually take what our government spending was actually below our 30% benchmark. Up above that, we could start to see what 30 or 40% growths in the next couple cohorts in these next couple quarters, okay? This is very, very exciting. It's not going to be revolutionary and change our company, but it could change the growth trajectories and how we actually start to build out new relationships with new countries all over the world now. I still think that this is the start, especially the longer that these conflicts start to happen, right? People are going to be more willing to actually sign off on their governments actually spending more on, well, military spend. It's not very a friendly thing that people want to be putting their taxpayer money towards, but whenever there's a huge conflict going on in your neighboring country, you're more willing to say, hey, keep me and my family safe. Let's spend a little bit extra on this just so then I can have that peace of mind whenever I go to sleep. I mean, this is not the only reason for why I'm buying Palantir down at these prices, but if you want to see the 29 reasons for why I am buying Palantir, check out the video right there. But until next time, guys, make sure you guys give me a like and subscribe down below if you want to see more financial content just like this.